Welcome everybody to the VR Game Rankings YouTube show. My name is Anthony and you guys are tuned in to our daily vlog series. Today is Friday, March 30th. This is episode 130 of the show. And we've got a ton of news stories today. Let's go ahead and get it going right now. Story number one, Wipeout Omega Collection. Yeah, I want to talk about this again, but I will be incredibly brief. Don't worry, calm down, relax. So I'm bringing this up because there was a comment in yesterday's video that I couldn't agree with more. I want to go ahead and read this comment and talk about it for a brief second. So Paul Smith left a comment after yesterday's video. Here is what he had to say. I think Wipeout Omega Collection is the best VR game I've played, and I've played almost everything. The PSVR's optics really come into their own for looking at distant objects and having bright colors. I was blown away. You and me both, Paul. I gotta say that Wipeout Omega Collection, the more I play this game, the more I am literally blown away by this game. I cannot believe this. This game has come out of nowhere and it is slapping me across the face every time I play it because it is just like, oh my God, I can't believe how good this game is. I'm inclined to agree with you, Paul. I really feel Wipeout Omega Collection is the best VR game, period. Yes, it is the best VR game, period. I know this is somewhat of an inconvenient truth. Shout out to Al Gore. This is somewhat of an inconvenient truth because, first of all, the best VR game is on PlayStation VR. It's not on the Oculus Rift. It's not on the HTC Vive. We have a war going on between the Rift and the Vive, and the best VR game isn't even on that platform. It's on the red-headed stepchild known as PlayStation VR. That's the best game. And then the other thing about it too is this is a futuristic racing game with hovercrafts. This game isn't going to appeal to everybody. There's some people, they don't like racing games, and there's people that do like racing games, but they don't like futuristic racing games. And so there's going to be a handful of people that just aren't into Wipeout Omega Collection. And I feel really bad for these people because they're literally missing out on the best VR game currently available. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm out of my mind. Maybe I'm too much of a Wipeout fan. But every time I play this game, I'm thinking, God damn, they killed it. They absolutely killed it with this game. Wipeout Omega Collection is amazing. I'm very curious to see what Steve and Gary are going to say about this game on the next VR Roundtable episode. I'm definitely curious about that. But let's go ahead and get into story number two. I don't want to waste much time at all on Wipeout. Okay, so story number two, Skyrim VR. Why is this in the news? It's in the news because the game is coming on Monday. It is coming on April 2nd. It is not coming on April 3rd. So we're going to get this game one day earlier. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is you can go ahead and grab this game from Green Man Gaming and you can get a 20% discount. They have a code Payday20. Go ahead and use that code at checkout and you will get 20% off of Skyrim VR. Okay, let's just go immediately into story number three. Story number three, Steam VR has been updated with a per application Steam VR settings option in Steam VR beta. So what am I talking about here? Basically what this is this is something that we've been asking for so incredibly long, but to have per application settings for super sampling. So we can go in and say, on this particular game, I want to super sample the living hell out of it. But on this other game, I don't want to super sample it at all. Well, before we had to have system wide settings. We had to either super sample everything or super sample nothing and have to like go in and change it every time we want to play different games. And that is a serious pain in the ass. Well, now we don't have to do that anymore. Of course, you do have to opt in to the Steam VR beta. And initially right now, this will only allow us to adjust resolution, which is basically super sampling, but at a certain point in time, they could add it where we could add always on reprojection, or we can uncheck that and have that for very specific applications as well. This is a huge feature. This is major. This is something all of us have been asking for. So that is absolutely huge. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into story number 4. Story number 4 is Magic Leap dev kits have gone out to some very select developers, but there is an interesting twist with this. The interesting twist is you actually have to keep your Magic Leap headset. If you get one from Magic Leap, you're going to have to keep this thing locked in a safe. Yes, can you believe this? Magic Leap is sending out the earliest development kits, but they're requiring that you take special precautions with this Magic Leap hardware. I mean, this is Fort Knox. They're treating this like this is the atomic bomb or some type of top secret experiment. And as soon as you're done using it, you need to lock that thing in a safe. Now, this is actually not the weirdest thing we've ever heard, because I know I've heard stories of Nintendo showing off new hardware and actually requiring having a Nintendo representative on hand. Like, they wouldn't even give you the actual Nintendo hardware. They actually come to your office. A guy sits in your office for like 3 hours, lets you play whatever Nintendo hardware it is, and then the guy takes it away. Basically, they don't trust anybody with anything. So this isn't the most shocking thing I've ever heard. Magic Leap has some really high-end technology here. They don't want any of the secrets to get out. Now, a lot of the naysayers are saying, oh, it's because the field of view is so bad, or it's because Magic Leap really isn't that great, and they don't want this leaking out and people finding out how crappy it really is. Now, I don't know that I'm actually buying into that. I'm sure there is a little bit of worry from Magic Leap. They want to keep things under lock and key, but honestly, this isn't as big of a deal as a lot of people are making it out to be. But there have been a handful of developers that were apparently offered dev kits, and after reading all of the drama, they decided, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. We're going to go ahead and pass on the Magic Leap because you're being a little bit overly ridiculous with all this requirements that you're making in terms of locking it up and all this different stuff. So that is Magic Leap. It is good to see, though, that actual development kits are getting out there in the wild, so the process is underway. Okay, let's go to story number 5. Story number 5 is Boneworks by Stress Level Zero. Looks really impressive. Now, when we first saw this thing, Boneworks, we didn't know what it was. We saw this trailer, we watched it, it looks awesome, it sounds awesome. We thought, oh, this is a new game from Stress Level Zero. It's called Boneworks. We don't really know what it's all about, but it kind of has like a Half-Life 2 gravity gun. It's got some crazy physics. It's got some really good shooting mechanics. It looks pretty freaking next level. But what we actually found out is Boneworks is not a game. Boneworks is actually an internal game engine that Stress Level Zero is going to be using for a lot of their future projects. So a lot of companies will do this. They'll design a very specific game engine that they plan on using that game engine for a number of different games. And that is basically what Boneworks is all about. So it's not actually a game. However, it is very likely that the next game that Stress Level Zero is going to come out with is going to look probably very similar to a lot of stuff that we're seeing in this incredibly impressive trailer. So we do know Stress Level Zero, we have to remember these guys were there at the HTC Vive launch with Hover Junkers. That means they were working on Hover Junkers way before then to have it finished and done and ready to go for the original HTC Vive launch. And then, of course, last September, they came out with Duck Season. That was a well-received game. It offered a lot of retro flavor and some interesting stuff went on in that game. Everybody liked Duck Season. And now we don't know what their next game is, but obviously this gives us a hint that they're working on something probably featuring guns, maybe multiplayer action. Boneworks does look very impressive, so we'll definitely keep our eyes on that. Okay, story number 6. Space Junkies was shown off at GDC. Now, this is something that we didn't hear actually during GDC week. It seems like this was embargoed because all of a sudden, bam, a bunch of different outlets are all talking about Space Junkies and talking about playing it at GDC. Now, if we go back in time, Space Junkies was originally unveiled back at E3 2017. It was also shown off to the press at Oculus Connect 3 in October, and this is the third time that press has got their hands on Space Junkies at GDC. There were private appointments. Upload VR got to try Space Junkies. Road to VR got to try Space Junkies. Many other outlets got to try it as well, and apparently the game has improved quite a bit since the last couple of times they've seen it. A lot of the people that have had their hands on with it are saying that it's feeling like the game is kind of complete. The game is kind of finished. This game could be coming soon. Originally, we heard spring 2018, so it is possible Space Junkies could arrive in the month of April, maybe in the month of May. This game could arrive at any time or possibly very early summer. But one of the nice things about Space Junkies, I was looking into the game and it apparently appears this game is kind of like Echo Arena meets Unreal Tournament. So this is definitely a multiplayer game. It's a shooter game. It has the zero-G thing of like Lone Echo and Echo Arena, but instead of being inside some type of space station, you're actually floating out in space. You're actually in a space suit. You have a jetpack. Your jetpack gives you some maneuverability, but there is also physics. You got to deal with physics and you got to deal with your momentum and your inertia. And anytime you fire a gun, whether it's a little pea shooter gun or a shotgun or some kind of powerful weapon, there's a kickback from the gun, and that actually affects the direction you're traveling. And so you really got to take into consideration physics and all of this. There's a number of different characters that you can choose from. For example, you can choose from Bucket List, you can choose Subaru, you can choose Shell Shock, and you can choose Buzzkill. So right now we know of 4 different characters. 2 of them are human-looking characters, 2 of them are definitely alien-looking characters, and there could be additional characters as well. And then also, there's basically going to be these different environments that the battles take place in, these different outer space arenas that you're going to be floating around in, and there's some very cool looking graphics, very colorful, very interesting. This looks like a pretty cool multiplayer game. The combination of Echo Arena and Unreal Tournament does sound pretty freaking exciting. The actual characters that you get to choose, we're definitely interested in Space Junkies, and it could be coming a lot sooner than we probably thought. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the next story. The next story is Sirento Reborn has been announced. Now, Mixed Realms, the developer of Sirento VR, they are now announcing a follow-up game to Sirento VR. It is called Sirento Reborn. We really don't have much information on this other than the basic name of the game and the fact that they're going to take everything that they've learned in the original development of Sirento VR and all the different updates they've made to that game, and they've improved it so much. They're going to take all that stuff that they've learned and they're going to pour that into Sirento Reborn and make it even better and even more incredible. Now, we don't know exactly when this game is coming, but one other thing we learned is that the original Sirento VR is actually going to be coming to PlayStation VR. So PlayStation VR owners will have an opportunity to get their hands on the original game. So we're definitely looking forward to that. So let's go ahead and get into story number 8. Story number 8, Air Mech Command is only $3 on Oculus right now. Now, I'm not sure when this is going to expire, but it's $2.99. So it is a great deal. Go ahead and pick up Air Mech Command if you have that opportunity. And then the final story I wanted to get into is Virtual Reality Football Club. Yeah, that's that soccer game that came out from Cherry Pop Games. Hasn't got a lot of publicity. It did have some problems from a standpoint of control, but one of the things that we've learned about in regards to Virtual Reality Football Club is there is a room scale option now. You can opt into a beta of this game and you can actually enable a room scale option. Why this was not available from the very beginning, I don't know, but I've actually tried the room scale option. And the cool thing about this is the number one problem that I had with this game is trying to go after the ball and trying to move yourself to the ball. That was the hardest thing. You go like this to run to the ball. That's easy enough. But when the ball is over there and you're aimed in this direction, how do you get yourself over there to run to the ball? That was the biggest problem. Now, a simple way to solve it is just allow pure room scale. Just turn to where the ball is and then do this. Easy enough, right? Problem solved. Well, I went ahead and enabled this. I did the beta version of Virtual Reality Football Club. I enabled the room scale mode and I started playing it like this, and it was so much better. But one of the problems that I encountered is the freaking cord. This is probably the reason that they haven't allowed this in the regular version. Is if you don't have like a wireless headset, you're going to have a problem with the cord if you enable this room scale mode, because you get into this soccer game, you get into playing it, and so you instantly start turning this direction, that, you know what I mean? You're turning all over the place, and you're going like this, you're running, and then the ball's over there, and then now you got to turn this way. And so eventually, if you got a cord, you're going to get all tangled in it. And what I found was I almost ruined my freaking Oculus Rift. I almost yanked my HTC Vive Link box completely out of its socket, pulled out the HDMI cable. I got caught up in my cord. I yanked it in a certain direction, and I was like, oh shit, you kind of need wireless to be able to play this in true room scale mode, but it is an interesting option. So if you have Virtual Reality Football Club and if you haven't played it in a long time, go ahead, try out this room scale mode. I think what it would work well with is actually if you strung your wire up on the ceiling and you have your wire dangling up there on some type of pulley system, it might work out just fine. So in that case, it might be well worth it to go ahead and get back into Virtual Reality Football Club and give it a try with this new room scale support. Alrighty guys, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. This has been episode 130 of the show for Friday, March 30th. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Remember, Brass Tactics is the free game of the weekend. Remember, there's also these sweepstakes that are going on Saturday. You want to get into a Brass Tactics game between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. That will enter you in with an opportunity to win a lot of great prizes. There's also some good sales that are going on. I mentioned Air Met Command. One other thing I wanted to mention is somebody was saying Invisible Hours, which I think is the best VR movie, really the only VR movie we have, the Invisible Hours. Somebody was saying that is only $10. That is a steal. I highly recommend it. It is literally the first VR movie. It is awesome. And for $10, it is a must grab in my opinion. But that's going to go ahead and do it, guys. Everybody have a wonderful weekend, and I will see everybody on Monday. Take it easy. Later.